Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 8. When you're trying to get all the things done, we often get stuck and we start to wonder, why can't I just move forward? Why am I stagnating? I should be better than this. Why am I unable to cross over this hurdle? Why is my to-do list feel like it's longer and bigger than my current ability to do it all? And most importantly, we want to know, what can I do to create more space in my life so I can create the life that I want? The problem with talking about productivity and time management is that we don't have the fundamentals in order. So today we're going to dive into how to unwind ourselves from the trap of thinking it's all about productivity so that we can really get to the root cause of why we're not doing the thing that we know we should be doing. So we think the thing we're doing is just a task. We think that we just need to get it done, and we forget why this matters. Why are you doing this in the first place? So the other day I had 2 larger projects that I'm trying to accomplish, and I was feeling some of that stagnation energy. I just didn't want to put it into motion, and I could see the time block in my schedule that I set out to, hey, I'm going to do this from 1 to 3 p.m. today, and I just didn't want to do it. So I went back through the process that I'm going to show you now and walk you through today that allowed me to unblock, get excited, and get into that process of creating. So first, what is your goal? When you set a goal, something interesting happens. You say to yourself, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, that where you want to be is not what you want. You become dissatisfied. You think, I'm motivated to do something because I want to move away from this thing here right now. I want to remove the tension of not having it done. It's bothering me that I wasn't moving forward, and that feeling of dissatisfaction is that motivation. It creates a drive. So welcome this discomfort. And I know it's hard. A lot of times you just said, well, I just want to get it done and not have it be uncomfortable. That is the whole point. Welcome this discomfort. See that pressure and that tension is a tool to influence yourself to take action and allow yourself to take consistent action. So remember this analogy that pressure is how diamonds are created. So think to yourself, well, why do I want to do this? Why is this actually important? So I had created multiple goals across all the different areas of my life, and I do this at least twice a year. And I linked those 2 projects to one of my professional goals. So why did I want to have these projects done? Well, there's positives and negatives in terms of whys, and it's always important to have both a positive why and a negative why. So the positive why was that I wanted to make it easy. I wanted to make this work easy because that's what it takes to play at a higher level. Turning what can be a difficult task into something easy is not something that everyone can just do. That was my positive, compelling draw to get me there. The negative why is that I had made sure that this task was associated with money. It would cost me money not to have it done. Whether you think this is a good idea or not, we want to associate pain and pleasure with our goal. So go ahead and do this now. Think about an area in your life where you are dissatisfied. and think about the changes that you want to make in your life. What do you want to accomplish, and why are you trying to accomplish this? What is your positive reason for why you want to do this, and what is your negative why? What is the thing that if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen? So you can actually pause and take a moment here and journal this out if this is not something that you already know. All right, come back when you're done. And when you're done with that part, and maybe you already have one in your head already. You're like, May, that's why I've been binging on all these episodes, because I know I'm dissatisfied in this area of my life. I just need to figure out how to move forward. So the next step is to really think about the beliefs that you have. So I started then to look at my thoughts, right? So the example I was giving were these 2 projects that I was trying to get done. I started to look at my thoughts behind that stagnation, that feeling of not getting it done. And the first thought and belief was that this work was boring. Really, that's what it was. It was boring and it's not interesting. And I realized then that I wouldn't get excited about it if I had that kind of belief in my mind. So I began to ask myself, what would get me excited about this? I began to see, as I started to ask myself that question, that what would get me excited is if I had a clear visual of what this would end up looking like, this strategy that I was developing, and seeing this in the hands of hundreds of people. And when I started to think, okay, I need to see this visual of exactly how it's going to be laid out in front of me and how people would visually see this, I began to get excited. So I had to see the end in mind. So I asked myself, what would be another thought that would help me get it done? And the other thought was that this is actually really easy and simple to do. So ask yourself, what beliefs would you need to have in order for you to create the change you want to see in your life? Whether it's this small task that you're trying to get done that, again, as I pointed out to you, isn't just a task, but related to a larger overarching goal. And if you didn't have one, now is the time to come up with what that goal is so that you can connect that task to it. So what beliefs would you need to have in order for you to create that change? If you want to have more time and energy, for example, you'd have to believe that I have control over my time, or that this is possible to have more time and energy. Some of you folks I know believe that you were born with low energy and a lesser amount of time than just other folks are in the world. But you have to change that belief in order for you to have something else. So if you want to have more time and energy, you'd have to believe I have control over my time. You'd have to believe that this is possible to have more time and energy. And what else would be another belief? You'd have to think that you can do it. So write this down. What beliefs do you need to have to get to that place you want to be in your life? And also think to yourself, what beliefs do I have that don't help me get this done? So when I reversed that and I started thinking about the beliefs that weren't helping me in these 2 projects, it was that this wasn't exciting or interesting work. So that belief does not help me. And you have some limiting beliefs too. And if you didn't, you'd be flying through all your to-dos with a sense of passion and excitement and fervor that's unmatched by anyone around you. So reality check yourself now and see that perhaps this isn't the case. Maybe in most of the things that you're doing it is, but you know you have a few hang-ups, and this is why you're listening now. And that's okay, right? So the reason I brought this up today and the reason I want to talk about this is because no matter where we are professionally, personally, in our lives, there's always a space to grow and to get better and do better. And as you start to feel better and better and better, it's okay for you to still notice places where you're dissatisfied in your life. Dissatisfaction doesn't mean you're completely unhappy. and that you have a terrible life. It only means that you're interested in developing yourself further, or you're interested in growing and learning about something in another way. So again, doesn't mean if you're trying to look to improve your productivity that the house is completely in shambles. In fact, I would check in with yourself and thinking that you don't need to have fundamentals in order. So anyone who plays sports or watches sports or know great coaches know that the fundamentals make or break the success of an individual or a team. And the question to you is to ask yourself, how often are you going back and checking in with some of these fundamentals, such as managing your time and taking back control of your time so you can take back control of your life? All right. So you looked at your beliefs and you're identifying what beliefs you need to have in order for you to get the thing done. And you're also looking at what beliefs you have now that aren't serving you. Notice them, be aware of them. And now what I want you to do is something a lot more tactical. It's really looking at the inventory of your life. I want you to now look at your schedule today or over this course of this week and look at whether it aligns with your bigger overall goals. Everything we do has to ladder up to that greater vision. Otherwise, we're just doing a bunch of random tasks that don't mean anything. And this is where we start to get lost in our lives in terms of we don't know where we're going, we don't know why we're doing things, and we're not sure where we're going to end up in a year. We let our days get filled with things that don't actually move the needle or don't actually matter to us. So we need to get so specific, so laser focused on the most important thing you need to do today. So for me, when I was stuck around those two projects and I just had the time and I wasn't doing it, had the time, I wasn't doing it, I was just like, okay. For me, it was to get my mind unstuck around these tasks. That was the important thing to do. Once I did that, I could then see a clear roadmap for getting both projects done well and quickly. How many of you wouldn't pay for a clear roadmap to almost any problem or issue you have in your life? And I'm telling you now that noticing that the inner work was getting my mindset corrected was the task, is the shift I want you to make. Sometimes we think that the task is the thing, right? I just need to get it done. I just need to get it done. And then we just push and we just try to muscle our way through it. And we don't realize that we're just muscling our way through a lot of various things in our day. And that is what leads to burnout. It leads to boredom and it leads to exhaustion. Instead, I'm asking you to see that mental work of training and honing and refining your mind, getting your mind right, is as important, if not more important, than the actual activity you're trying to accomplish. Without that right mindset, it's going to take you twice as long with a much worse attitude and most likely subpar results than what you could actually do with a mindset that is like, hey, I can do this. I'm going to do it well. I see exactly what it would take to do this well. So inventory your day, inventory your week, inventory your month, and see how much time you're investing into activities that are working for you and your goals, and how much time are you actually investing into activities that are improving your mindset. Things like listening to this podcast or, investing in coaching or talking to the right people, learning, reading books, going to events where you get inspired. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, right? Like educating yourself, training yourself, working on your mindset. Okay. Now is when you can start to create your massive action plan. This is when we start to get into it. What are the small things that add up to the larger tasks at hand? What are the first steps, the second steps, the third steps you need to take? Again, These are fundamentals, but if you're not doing them, it's time to do them. And we forget these fundamentals all the time, right? We just say, okay, we got to do this thing. And then we're like, we're just doing this thing. And we forget, probably because it's a new thing that we're doing, that we have to break it down. We have to take small, bite-sized pieces of it so that we can actually accomplish things every single day. And sometimes you're not going to be satisfied because you think, well, I need to just finish the whole thing. And only when I do the whole thing will it be enough for me. But I want you to start seeing that these small actions that you do every single day are what builds to that giant, bigger thing and that bigger future, that bigger success, the project going well. It's always in these small actions and executing them. If you can actually decide what you're going to do each day, have it ladder up to your goals, and then do them, your life will radically transform. So think about, what does it look like to get from here to there? Then put it in your calendar, schedule it, time block it, right? From this time to this time, working on it. Let yourself be reminded daily that you get to create your goals. A lot of times we give up our power, we give up our ownership over the things that we have to do in our day. And we say, well, it's not mine. You know, my boss gave it to me, or my manager just delegated this meeting to me and now I have to attend for them. Yes, that might have happened, but you have total ownership over you accepting that meeting, you giving feedback about what that feels like when you now have meetings on your calendar that weren't planned and now you can't get this other thing that's also important done. So there is a level of control in terms of choice about what you do with your time, even when you're in these really terrible situations. And I've been in them, I'm telling you, where you have back-to-back across the entire day. You feel like you can't get any work done until, late at night because no one's bothering you or sending you emails then, or the weekends. And that's really the only time. You have a choice. You have a choice, you have a choice, you have a choice. And there's so many things to talk about within that, but I want you to know this, that you have a choice in the way that you spend your time, and whether it's a big decision like changing a job or a smaller decision like rearranging your day, these are all things that you can do to take control back over your time. Okay? So this is where you get into the massive action. You get to create your goals. You get to change your goals. You get to understand how you can use these associations of pain and pleasure to really get yourself into action. So see that as you begin to put these activities together into your calendar, whether it's, a journal that you write in, whether it's mentally, whether it's actually in a electronic calendar or on your phone, whatever it is, see that you're putting this together in the way that you think is going to shape your future life, right? These are the things that I want to be doing. This is how often I want to be reading, training, listening to things. For me, it's really important to spend time in community with others who are also trying to achieve ambitious goals, right? For others who are doing similar work, for others who are learning and growing in the same ways that I am and have maybe done even more. So I always challenge myself, and I challenge you to have that same level of expectation for yourself in terms of what you can do with your time and how you can invest your time. Okay, very tactically, I'm going back to fundamentals again. As you start to put things in your calendar, I want you to really be critically thinking about how you can stay in flow for as long as possible. You will find this out regardless of whether I tell you, because you'll notice it in your own experience, and that's also a very powerful teacher. When you have enough time to get into a flow state, for example, For me, I know that I need at least 20 to 30 minutes to really get into a task. And lots of studies have shown that when you start to multitask, you waste time because that switching cost of going back and forth creates this loss. And it's a false sense of comfort when you think you can read your emails and go back to that task, read your emails and then go back to that task, because it takes around 20, 25 minutes for you to actually get your mind back into the thing that you were doing. Same thing, emails are a task and they are important. Communicating with people, reaching out to the right people, connecting with people, that's also a task. But give yourself the appropriate amounts of time for you to get into a flow state with them. And you know what that feels like. You know that it takes you a certain amount of time for you to really get into maybe creative work or really begin to do deeper work. Even just harder tasks that you need to wrap your mind around need a little bit of transition time for you to get into them. So make sure that as you put your activities into the calendar, that you give yourself the time you need to get into a flow state where you can just go, right? You've kind of shook off all the dust and you're moving now, okay? So that includes batching like items together, which is why tending to one quick email and then going back to, a strategy map is not ideal. Maybe you tend to one really large email that needs a lot of attention and time, and then you do the larger strategy map. Or you do, 10 to 15 small, quick emails in a hour, right? And you let yourself batch these like items together, right? So that you can get yourself into a flow state, even if they're different things, but they're the same kind of activity, okay? So again, fundamentals, if you've already got that and you're great at it, perfect. If not, make sure you're batching. Okay, now, let's talk about your schedule. So I know when you hear schedule, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about my schedule, because they hate their schedule. They look at it and they're just like, I can't even, look at my calendar because I just see this like giant block and no space. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that is a limiting belief, right? Your calendar is your friend. It's your friend. Breathe in that feeling that you can have control over your time. Okay, so why is this the case? So creating a schedule is actually really important for your ability to create space. It's not just a place where people get to dump things on your calendar. It's a place for you to create space, right? So try to have that kind of energy around your calendar. I don't mean a schedule that's like so detailed that you start to feel restricted, right? Sometimes we get lost into all the details of like, I'm going to calendar every single thing out, and then you start to feel like you're suffocating under all those constrictions. But you get to work your schedule. Build a schedule that feels like you have time to do the work that you want to do. I'm not saying block 10 minutes off to go to the bathroom and then 10 minutes to do this. I'm saying like give yourself like 2 or 3 hours to do this thing that you need to do. Block off time to work out. It can be a different schedule every single day. But what matters is that it works for you and that you have created time and space for the things that matter and that are important to you. So if you haven't heard that analogy around the big rocks and the small rocks, put your big rocks in. If you had a bucket and you were trying to fill it with all these different size stones, and if you put in all the gravel first and the small things, it's really hard. And you just imagine this visual with a full bucket to start to shovel in all these big rocks and like jam them into the gravel. Whereas if you just started off with your big rocks, put them in the bucket, and the big rocks are your really important things that you actually need to get done that move the needle forward. And then you pour in the gravel around it, which is all the little stuff that just comes into your day and takes time. You can fill that bucket so much more easily. So these are the things, these big rocks are the things that don't get done because they're not on the schedule. And then we start to feel like we are not in control of our life. So you get me here? You're not putting into your calendar and your time the things that you care about. And that's not a judgment. That's not saying that there's something wrong with you and how come you haven't done that. I'm just saying that we've all experienced that place before where we start to feel like something isn't right. Like I'm starting to feel really tired. I'm starting to feel really burnt out. And you know, and this is where I start to talk about intuition and listening to your gut and your higher self and the truth that you know within you, that something is up there. And this is why I'm saying that as soon as you start to align your life, your calendar, your external world with your internal world, you will start to feel more in sync with the way that you want to show up in the world. So when you put the things in to your schedule that are important to you, these are the things that you care about. And right now, I bet when you look at your schedule, what is on it? It's going to be work, right? And it's going to be work that maybe other people decided for you. So think about your schedule as a place for you to build your future. Make it full of the activities that you want to put in there that you know will allow you to achieve your goals. And again, everyone's way of scheduling looks different, whether it's just a mental schedule that you keep and you can hold on to and you actually follow, or whether it's a literal, time blocked Outlook or iCalendar schedule that is in your phone and your laptop. Okay. The next thing is really around the execution. And this is where we get hung up. We just have to do it. So when we get to the time in the schedule for doing the activity that we set out to do, right? A lot of times we don't do it because we feel stuck. That was the projects that I was talking about. I had these 2 projects. I know they have to get done. I'm putting them in my calendar and I'm stuck. This is when we realize, and that's when I realized that the mindset work hasn't been done or that I need to bring it back to the forefront. So this is when you remind yourself, why is this important? What are my goals? Why are they so compelling? Why are they so desirable? Why are they so painful? And just remember that feeling of wanting to create something in your life that is different than what you see today, and use that discomfort as a leverage to start. Count down if you need to begin, right? I do that with my kids, and for some reason it works for not just kids, but adults too. Realize that if you can just get this one thing done, just started, that you're answering a promise to yourself and that you're developing this trust. And this is so important, a trust in your abilities to take action. And then you start to see that the actions add up each and every single day. And these small actions, like getting your mindset right, can be big, even though it's intangible. But big actions like getting the task done can also become reversed and look small. So this whole idea is for you to start playing with the idea that you're more powerful a creator than you've ever realized. And you can start seeing your life come into form from your thoughts and your mindset. So you are way more powerful than you realize. And I want you to know this. Your thoughts, the way you think, are truly more than just these fantasies. And they are energy. They are form. And if you know that's the case, then your ability to believe in the things you want to have in your life. And again, your goals do not have to be like anyone else's. And I'm not talking about a specific professional goal or I want to advance in my career. It could be something really simple. Like I want to, build a house for my parents. Right? Or I want to live on the land one day, or I want to go take a trip somewhere. These goals are varied And this is why I'm trying to get you into that mindset of realizing that you can start to create goals, and not just these professional areas of your life, but also in your personal life as well. So if you start with the why, right? The desire, and then you hone into the discipline of doing and creating, you'll start to realize that you have to make time and space for both the doing work and the mindset work, right? If you're starting with the why, that means you have to start with the mindset. If you're starting with the desire, that's starting with the mindset. And then when you have that straight, and I say this all the time, desire before discipline, even though I'm a very disciplined person, but I've realized I need to have the desire, right? That's why I didn't start these projects that I knew, executionally I could just do. I needed to have the desire. So make space for both the doing and the mindset work. And it's really important to remember that life is about unwinding our understanding of how things work, so that we can start to create a life from the inside out. And you can start to see that even if you don't know how you'll achieve this giant, compelling goal of yours, that all you need to do is start with the vision. Start with the vision and the beliefs that will allow you to figure out the how in time. All right. So I love you, my friends. I hope this served you well in a time when I know we have so much on our plate. So be compassionate with yourself. Give yourself this inspiration to pursue your dreams, but also give yourself a little bit of compassion, because this is a very different time than what we're used to. And so a perfect time for us to go back to the fundamentals. And remember that anytime you're creating your goals, you can always feel free to listen back to this episode to get your mindset straight and remember why you're doing this in the first place. So that's it, my friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. So if you like this episode and you want to learn more about a new program that I'm launching called Intuitive Leadership Coaching, you can go to www.mayemson.com Intuitive Leadership and sign up for a free Becoming Intuitive live stream where I'll share more details about the program and what living with intuition really means, how to connect to yourself and others more deeply, and how to connect with spiritual truths so that you can create more in your external world. So again, if you're interested, go to www.mayemson.com/intuitive leadership and you can sign up for the free live stream. All right. Love you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayemson.com. It'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.